Welcome to The Place Inside, podcast number 31. I am your host, Laurence Galian. As always, our purpose is to empower you through love and direct awareness of the essence, the ultimate reality, and through very practical, down-to-earth advice to help you become warriors of the light, what we call the metaphysical freedom fighters. Fear is the source of all our problems. Many good people have terrible fears in today's world, fears that have torn away and stripped off their sense of reality. These people are unaware of the manipulations and machinations of the military-industrial complex, the stripping away of our humanity through psychiatric drugs, television, the military use of electromagnetic and other exotic weapons, the suppression of our emotions, the manipulation of our money system, medical experimentation that is creating horrifying chimeras, the control of information by the so-called news, corporate manipulation of sincere, hard-working men and women, those who know about ancient alien warlord extraterrestrials and their genetic and ideological bloodline, the revelation by alternative historians about the true physical history of planet Earth, the awareness of the loss of our inheritance, of our ancient knowledge that was once ours, but lost through such events as the burning to the ground of the Library of Alexandria, the pervasiveness of physical, sexual, verbal, and emotional abuse in all its disgusting forms, the suppression and manipulation of the truth by power-hungry priests, those who are aware of the race of beings co-inhabiting this planet that are called the Jinn. Also alien abductions, genetically modified food, and the destruction of the entire world's food chain, and delusional mind parasites who are creating a completely artificial and illusionary world for many people. What do we, the metaphysical freedom fighters, stand for? It is this: a direct experience and gnosis of the love and light that emanates from the ultimate reality, or you can call it the real. For nothing is more powerful than the one vibrational light of all the universes. Gnosis is direct knowing. It is extra-dimensional. In other words, it is not confined to the dimensions of various beings. Therefore, the wisdom we receive from gnosis transcends any knowledge or power in any of the worlds. We do not refer to the quote-unquote love and light that many New Age groups offer. For the New Age mostly offers only a weak brew of nice feelings and a frequently hidden agenda of encouraging a dangerous weakness in its followers. However, we are well aware of the intense need people have at this time for something to provide peace to their hearts and minds, as well as some stability and meaning to their lives. The frustration, rage, and fear of so many Americans are pouring forth now with the Occupy protests going nationwide. We support the 99% and are encouraged by those who are outside trying their best to let the warmongers and their bankster masters know that they are not going to take their bullshit anymore. It is good that they are protesting in a nonviolent way. I am glad to see people finally taking action in this country. But millions upon millions peacefully took to the streets in protest to let Bush know the American public did not want war in Iraq. And we saw how much good that did. Whether the president or Congress be Democrat or Republican, they are not running the show. These podcasts provide effective ways to create change in our country. In addition, we welcome and seek for ways to communicate with and understand extraterrestrial visitors who come in love, a sincere and positive desire to explore the universe and friendship, and those who are already here. Yet we defend the earth from the alien warlords, their puppet politicians and lackeys who are bent on manipulating humanity and returning humanity into slavery. We are Earth's last defense against the negativity that has turned our world into a world of fear, division, anger, and illusion. Make no mistake, we are at war. We are not at war with terrorists. We are at war with those who are the masters of creating terror. This war is a war of consciousness. However, it does play out on the seemingly very real and sometimes very painful battlefield of physical reality. We believe that humans naturally have awesome, inherent powers, and if you properly develop yourself, you can become a fully awakened human being with an infinite amount of senses. We believe that extremes of any kind are pitfalls, and that a middle way is always the best course. For instance, some say the visitors have just arrived in the 20th century, while others say they have been here for millions of years. Others want to believe the visitors are only pure light beings, here for only our benefit, education, and salvation, while others see them only as evil Nephilim. Some people are lost in scientism, while others are lost in fantasy. Interestingly, one example of the danger of extremes is that the most damage to human beings' brains and bodies can be accomplished through the evil military use of extreme frequencies from both ends of the electromagnetic spectrum. Existence is a polychromatic spectrum of infinite creativity, multifaceted with endless possibilities. For millennia, people have been taught by masters, usually seen as spiritual teachers, and initiates on Earth, and on other planes and dimensions of existence. These masters and initiates can help guide you to the source of all creation, but you must make the journey. Besides all the obstacles humanity faces the obstacle of itself. In other words, it faces inertia. Inertia. That gravity that causes many people to sit on couches reading books and watching movies and videos about great men and women, or studying books that offer real paths to enlightenment and true mental, emotional, physical, and psychological sovereignty. And yet, then they go right back to their ordinary lives and do not put one single practice or exercise to work. Or they do some practices for a week and then give up. Remember that getting preoccupied with thinking and getting lost in the labyrinths of thought leaves you open to invasion by delusional mind parasites. Too many very intelligent and caring people spend way too much time in their heads. Stop thinking so much about your life and resolve to live life. While we are up against many negative forces, it actually takes very little effort in the positive direction to turn your life around completely. It is said that if you take one step towards the divine runs 10 steps towards you. It is truly sometimes as simple as opening up your eyes as if you were having a bad dream. For the forces of negativity have, in actuality, created an artificial world for us, a simulacrum. Free yourself of your distractions. All those feelings that say it's no use, that it's too late to do anything, that you are not good and that there's no hope. Why do all great master teachers say these words? Wake up. Because it is time for humanity to rise up and open its eyes. My personal goal is to free you of fear, weakness, and rage, and to help you step into your full actualization as a true and complete human being. Then you can fulfill your mission that you were sent here to do, your cosmic purpose. I have a bone to pick with those clergy of all religions that have conspired to dumb down humankind and keep humankind from rebellion by teaching them that it is better to turn the other cheek than to fight evil. It is very helpful for the royalty, and today's royalty, the ultra-rich, the military, and certain political forces, to make people think that to be a spiritual person means to never fight to defend one's sovereignty and to defend one's life, family, and country. This idea is a pernicious concept. There is good and bad, the light and the dark, the positive and negative. Some people want to blur the distinctions between good and evil, and to force you into confusion. Dr. Thomas Fuller wrote this, quote, "With foxes, we must play the fox," unquote. That is why we must be wise and cunning in our defense of our rights, family, and country, ultimately the world. I'm not talking about helping the world in the sense of creating a new world order. That is the problem, not the solution. Look around you. The United States is becoming one big strip mall with all the same stores, mile after mile. All you see are the same stores, the same fast food joints, the same restaurants, the same malls filled with the same shops. The whole world is following the materialistic lead of the United States. People fear anything unique and different instead of embracing it. There was a time when mom and pop stores could survive and thrive. Individualism and entrepreneurship could thrive and was encouraged. So too, we must allow people throughout the world to develop in their own ways, to express their sovereignty in their own ways. That means we must fight against those who would make the world into all one gray, lifeless color. The metaphysical freedom fighters are not a bunch of people who believe in a kind of Pollyanna spirituality. Ours is a sophisticated and sometimes very difficult path. We seek to face the world head on and not be swayed by false religious and spiritual teachers and religious formalism. Just so, we must not give up a clear perception of the world through engaging in excessive alcohol, drugs, food, television, and other entertainment. These things in excess also prevent us from knowing reality directly. You can't change what you don't notice, and not noticing won't make it go away. Each of us has an infinite capacity for self-deception. To avoid pain, we rationalize, minimize, deny, and go numb. The antidote is the willingness to look at yourself and the world with unsparing honesty, and to hold yourself accountable to the person you want to be. Scientists are putting human blood in pigs. They are experimenting with putting a human brain into mice. And we know the show The UFO Hunters was temporarily knocked off the air because they discovered experiments that the Black Ops military and medical laboratories are doing to create chimeras. Chimeras are combinations of animals and humans. I showed you a photograph in a previous podcast of a pig-like creature with a human face. I'll try to put it up somewhere in the video of this podcast. This is all part of a great negativity that is invading our world from all directions. Those who grew up in my generation have their minds filled with nightmare scenarios of nuclear bombs and mushroom clouds. Someone needs to stand up against these evils. Things are getting more and more absurd on this planet. The forces of evil are panicking. They see that change is coming. In fact, it has already started. They know their time is short. However, if they can succeed in filling humanity with intense fear, intense anger, violence, racist thoughts, denial, and abuse, they can keep their power. A lot of this negativity is generated by Hollywood. I am talking about both television and films here. Hollywood is one of the sources of illusion that is thrust into the minds of human beings. Notice how people all over the world are affected by the movies, actors, characters, and themes generated by Hollywood. Most people either try consciously to emulate one or more Hollywood actors, or they unconsciously do so. It is common for people to verbally compare their own looks or someone else's looks as being similar to some famous actor or actress. Why this intense identification with actors and actresses? Realize this awesome power of Hollywood. Hollywood weaves its spell through combining truth with negativity. You know that is the method liars and con artists use to weave their spells. Hollywood subtly instills all sorts of thoughts and fears into the populace. Very occasionally, a major film will break through and instill positivity, but most films contain a combination of positive and negative messages in each film. Just notice how many disaster films exist, how many films are filled with murder and violence, and how just about every major television program introduces the word terrorist somewhere during the episode. Just think about how many weekly programs are suddenly on TV that portray the FBI, the police, and the military as a group of good guys and good gals who are looking out for us and taking care of us. And notice how these shows mock people like us, portraying us as crazy and dangerous. Why is that? The Sci-Fi Channel is completely compromised, with many sci-fi movies having terrorism as their theme. A secret black ops military that always has our best interests at heart, a president who truly cares for the public, brewing up a combination of fascinating sci-fi and fantasy themes, while simultaneously subtly brainwashing the viewers with lies. Thankfully, many independent and foreign films are free of the Hollywood curse, as I would call it, and they are worth watching. On television, there are often good programs on the Discovery Channel. The History Channel offers so many conflicting opinions on their shows that it is difficult to walk away feeling that you have learned anything. Yet, if you are so inclined, oftentimes you will hear something mentioned that you can go investigate on your own. Most of this work has to be done by you. After all, do you want to live with someone else's opinions and thoughts in your head? Or your own? A huge responsibility is upon your shoulders. If you don't do something, who is? Now, another very hidden project is happening right now under our noses, involving the most powerful, evil, and negative beings on this planet. They are preparing to try to physically leave the Earth. They are completely aware of the shift that is taking place in consciousness. It is possible that black ops space operations and missions may already have established bases on the far side of the moon. However, due to certain obstacles that ancient and wise galactic light masters have put in place around our Earth and moon, the powerful evil alien warlords with their powerful evil elite cannot easily leave this area of the solar system. Unfortunately, many well-meaning people are falling into the same wavelength as these evil ones, thinking that by arming themselves with guns and filled with rage and hatred of the government and corporations, they can stage a revolution and change the state of things on the Earth. However, this wavelength actually only feeds the evil ones and makes them stronger. They are happy when humanity lives in fear, terror, and rage. And the evil ones know, on the level of sheer firepower, they outnumber the revolutionaries and are more heavily and sophistically armed than those who are prepared to fight a violent war. However, as Paul Coelho writes, quote, "The angels also have their strategies," unquote. Using another frequency called, quote, "the divine wavelength," unquote, we, the metaphysical freedom fighters, fight back. It is now necessary that we fight. However, we fight on a different frequency than do those who seek control and dominance of humankind. This divine wavelength can actually stop this evil. We fight back by harmonically attuning ourselves to the frequency of the divine wavelength. This frequency propagates the unstoppable strength of vibrational light that dwells in the heart of our being and is directly connected to the center of all the universes. You are learning in this series of podcasts about energy, the flow of energy, and how to use that energy. You are also learning that reality is bendable. Reality is amenable to consciousness. In other words, your consciousness has a direct effect on the reality you experience. It is time to stop being afraid. But to do that, you need to stop the vicious cycle of frightening thoughts that spin around in your head all day. In this episode, we are plunging into the amazing world of Jay Alfred. Alfred investigates many fascinating themes: the parallel earth, the invisible sun, mind waves that radiate from your body, plasma life aliens, bioplasma theory, types of encounters with plasma life forms, subtle bioplasma bodies, tuning into the mind waves, exotic life forms, plasma currents, and the Kundalini. Why do UFOs display lights? Plasma healing, and detecting plasma beings. Let's see how much we can get into with this show, and maybe we will have a follow-up podcast to go with this one, if there's a need and a demand for it. All our podcasts form an interconnected whole. We introduce and then develop themes throughout many podcasts. If you have not listened to previous shows, I urge you to listen to the shows you have missed. True teaching and learning is not just about giving out and receiving information. True teaching is transmitted over time. True learning is like planting an acorn and watching that grow into a mighty oak tree. Why is dark matter one of the central topics of today's talk? Well, first of all, that term, quote-unquote, dark, worries many people, frankly. Especially those people who explore light beings, the Galactic Federation of Light, and who generally believe that the light is fundamentally associated with the good, and that the dark is fundamentally associated with evil. Therefore, hearing talks about dark matter troubles those people. You may be one of them. We have heard that the universe is filled with light on a metaphysical or spiritual level. We have heard that there are beings of light beings, beings who live in the light and are composed of light. Many people meditate on the light, and in some spiritual traditions, the divine itself is called the light. So, when someone, a scientist or other, starts going on about dark matter, on a conscious or subconscious level, these people simply don't know how to fit this knowledge into their view of the way the cosmos operates. Therefore, my first words to you are, cheer up. What I'm going to share with you today will please and excite you. But you must bear with me for a while as I lay out some of the latest findings of science in this area, and then we will go on to show you that you haven't misplaced your focus if you are a lover of the light. First and foremost, dark matter is invisible matter. We have talked about the very narrow spectrum of colors that the human eye can see. We can only see a very small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Some animals, like insects, can see more of the spectrum of colors. And we humans have developed certain technologies like infrared glasses that enable us to see a color that is not seeable by the regular unaided human eye, namely infrared. There is also another color which we can quote-unquote see with special equipment. We call this other color ultraviolet. This is just a small example of how narrow our knowledge of the colors of the universe is. We can only perceive a narrow bandwidth of the electromagnetic spectrum, and we call these various frequencies colors and sounds. However, there is almost an infinite amount of colors and sounds which we humans cannot perceive, yet do exist and surround us all the time. Dark matter is invisible to us humans. This does not mean that it is not radiating light. We just cannot see it with normal vision. Do you know that the Earth has its own particular frequency? Yes. It is called the Schumann cavity resonance. It is 7.83 cycles per second. In a previous podcast, we discussed certain psychotronic electrical devices that you can purchase or make yourself if you are talented with electronics, which help you to tune or retune the frequency of your brain and body to the Schumann resonance, or any other frequency you wish. We have also discussed how periodically the Earth sheds a portion of humanity that has fallen backwards into delusional, senseless materiality and evil. Now I am going to tell you something that I find fascinating. The Schumann cavity resonance rises periodically in what is known as the Fibonacci sequence of numbers. When did a rise in the Schumann resonance last happen? It happened 13,000 years ago. Moreover, this coincides with the end of the last ice age, the Mayan calendar, and the building of many ancient sacred sites around the Earth. Jay Alfred has proposed that our planet Earth is coupled with another Earth made of dark matter. This dark matter Earth coexists with our Earth and also our moon. We, the Earth and the moon, are also ensheathed by a vast cloud of dark matter. It encases our bodies. And very interestingly, it is more prevalent here than in almost any other place in the galaxy. This is a fascinating enigma. Now, Jay Alfred proposes that this dark matter is mostly made up of plasma. You can see we're connecting up now with the plasma we talked about in the last podcast. The concept of plasma is a relatively modern one. The term, quote-unquote, plasma was coined by Irving Langmuir around 1929, and modern plasma physics only began in the 20th century. Now, Jay Alfred informs us, according to his research, that these plasma life forms also evolved along with us human beings. What's more, he teaches that frequently we have forged a symbiotic relationship, humans and plasma beings working together. For after all, while we inhabit carbon-based bodies, our inner essence is light. In addition, remember when I say quote-unquote light, I am talking about something beyond our rational mind's perception, the light of day that we see during daylight is only a hint of what the true light is. There is the true light, but let the practices I give you guide you into this true light. Now, as you know, I do not push any particular spiritual practice or any particular martial arts practice. However, I am not afraid to give you my opinions as to what I think are the most effective. As one of my master teachers told me once, quote, "There are as many ways to the top of the mountain as there are human beings on earth," unquote. In other words, you must individually find what works for you. Why do you think no two snowflakes are alike? Why do you think no two fingerprints are alike? If the divine wanted us to fit into some cookie-cutter mold, then it would have made us all the same, all clones of one another. Look around you. Look at the biodiversity of humanity and sentient life in all the universes. No, we were made to be unique. Find your uniqueness and explore it and exploit it. You must find your cosmic purpose and fulfill it to the best of your ability. The ancient whirling dervishes of the Middle East, when they begin their ceremony, are all dressed in very long black robes that wrap themselves completely around. They each wear a tall hat symbolizing their tombstone. At a certain point during their amazing ceremony, they throw off their black cloaks altogether, revealing a pure white light garment that they wear underneath. Then they begin to whirl or spin. If you don't know what whirling is, go onto YouTube and watch some videos of Whirling Dervishes. Interestingly, dervish is another name for Sufi. Not all Sufis whirl. Each Sufi order has its own practices. Some are experts in breath control. Some are experts in chanting in mystical ways, and some whirl or spin around for hours on end. It is not easy to become a whirling dervish. It requires years and years of practice and dedication and commitment. So, as the whirling dervish throws off his or her black cloak, so too we throw off our carbon-based bodies when we die, and our light bodies are revealed, symbolized by the white cloaks of the dervishes. According to Alfred, the plasma beings evolved slowly, in some ways like us, first existing as little cell-like structures. In fact, the existence of dark plasma made it possible for us to wed or marry our internal plasma with the carbon of the earth. Along with the evolving plasma cell life, a dark plasma earth was also evolving. Two earths, the carbon-based earth and the dark plasma-based earth. What is more, frequently the two earths would interact throughout history, sometimes deliberately and sometimes by accident. The plasma world, or plasma earth, is much more quote-unquote liquid in its appearance and physical existence. Their world is similar to a huge ocean. Plasma beings can literally swim throughout their plasma earth. Sometimes they deliberately or inadvertently swim into our world, and vice versa. It is said that when we go to sleep every night, we travel into a special world, a living ocean of light, filled with all sorts of shining, shimmering, polychromatic colors. Alfred is convinced that many UFOs are living creatures, in other words, plasma beings. According to Alfred, what often appears to us as UFOs flying through the sky are in reality the plasma beings swimming through their plasma earth. That is how they can maneuver and change shape and color so easily. Recall when we spoke about the Islamic belief that besides humans, there exist two other life forms, jinns, or genies as commonly known in English, and angels. Alfred notes that, quote, the famous Islamic cosmographer and Persian physician who lived in the 13th century, Zachariah ibn Muhammad ibn Mahmud Abu Yahya al-Qazwini, states that jinns are aerial animals with transparent bodies which can assume various forms, unquote. He does not claim that all UFOs are living beings, but believes that most are. That is his opinion. To take this one step further, we have spoken now of one, a carbon-based Earth on which we dwell most of the time and consider as our planet. Two, a plasma-based Earth which co-evolved with our own planet and occupied by creatures spanning a spectrum from small plasma bacteria to fully sentient and intelligent beings as ourselves. And finally, we have number three, the fact that here on our carbon-based Earth, some plasma beings make this their home. So we have three life movements occurring simultaneously, three manifestations of plasma life and carbon-based life. The plasma life forms exist along part of the continuum of the electromagnetic spectrum. A painter works with what we call color, part or parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that our eyes can see. Yet we know there are colors our eyes cannot see. As the plasma life forms move up and down the electromagnetic spectrum, sometimes they enter that part of the spectrum that is visible to our eyes. Alfred says that it is the increase in dark plasma frequency that causes the plasma life form to, quote-unquote, enter our visible awareness. Just as we have a carbon-based component and a light component to us, the plasma life forms also seem to have a dual nature, an ordinary plasma component and a dark plasma component. This may explain why those same Islamic philosophers believe that Jinn could be what they called believers or unbelievers. Alfred also perceives that all these plasma beings, as well as the plasma earth, are ensheathed by an ovoid or ball-type shape. The denser part of the plasma being is contained within an oval or ball of more plasma. This outer ball or oval is very plastic and can easily change shape and frequently appear and disappear to us because from time to time their frequencies shift and they enter the frequencies that are visible to human beings. Inside the oval or ball is a three-dimensional image composed of higher density dark plasma, generated in the same way that quote-unquote plasma holograms are now generated in the laboratory. They may be generated aligned with the longer axis of the ovoid. What about communication between us and the plasma beings? Well, let's listen to what Alfred has to say. He writes, quote, "Since your own bioplasma body radiates dark electromagnetic waves, an entity can also change its appearance in accordance with your expectations by tuning into those frequencies using their plasma antenna. As explained by dark plasma theory, within the subtle body are plasma cells which can behave as antenna. Plasma antennae are actually used in scientific laboratories. As noted in the account of the Marian apparition, when the ball of light reached the children, it tuned into the thought waves of the children. In other words, the electromagnetic waves broadcasted by the children and modulated by their thoughts, and resolved into the form of an angel," unquote. I think it goes much further than this, but his theory does explain why some people only make contact with very beautiful and even sexy human-like aliens, while others have horrific experience with terribly frightening-looking creatures. However, Alfred himself speaks of the sentience of many of these plasma beings and how they can communicate with us if they wish to, and how we may intelligently communicate with them. He writes, "This is not inconceivable if ghosts, angels, and similar life forms have bioplasma bodies which are good radiators and receivers of dark radio waves. When these waves are modulated by the thoughts of the owner and radiated out of the bioplasma body, telepathy can take place between bioplasma bodies, between light bodies. This allows these exotic life forms to communicate their mental and emotional states to human beings through receptors in our bioplasma bodies. Although they co-evolved with us, plasma life forms in Earth's dark biosphere are likely to have evolved at a faster rate. Hence, this plasma-based civilization, having a head start in evolution, could be expected to be more advanced than us. As a civilization, they would have government, political and social structures, as well as culture. They are likely to be superior in communications technology using bioplasma bodies, since they would obviously be more familiar with these types of bodies compared to us. This may allow them to communicate with our bioplasma bodies directly. We may interpret this as telepathy or messages from unspecified entities. They may even fear that we will harm them with our growing technological sophistication," unquote. Madame H.P. Blavatsky, a leading metaphysician of the 19th century, observed that the real sun was hidden behind the visible sun. What was this real sun that she was referring to? Perhaps she was referring to Jay Alfred's invisible sun that we cannot see. She revealed that this invisible sun is the storehouse of vital force, and from it issue those life currents which thrill through space, as through the organisms of every living thing on earth, the real sun being hidden behind the visible sun and generating the vital fluid which circulates throughout our solar system in a 10-year cycle. Some call this sun the sun at midnight. The vital force that Blavatsky is referring to has been called ki by the Chinese and prana by the Hindu yogis. It is generally accepted in the metaphysical literature that ki and prana emanate from the sun and interact weakly or in subtle ways with ordinary matter, just like dark matter. According to Jay Alfred, ki and prana are composed of dark matter particles. If so, this invisible sun that Blavatsky was referring to was a sun composed of dark matter. Well, Alfred's theories are certainly fascinating. I think they may explain many phenomena. Nevertheless, as we constantly mention, we do not want to fall into a one-dimensional view of the world and existence. While intraterrestrial plasma beings may certainly exist on planet Earth, the many universes are filled with millions of other beings and civilizations made in an infinite number of ways. Many of these beings visit the planet Earth regularly. Just as a symphony is not composed with just one note, there is not just one explanation for the extraterrestrial phenomenon. We have explored the world of Jay Alfred to understand some paranormal activity that takes place with non-human beings. I by no means am attempting to say that this explains all UFOs and alien contact. I believe the intraterrestrial phenomenon explains a portion of it, but millions of people have experienced and are experiencing sightings and contact with a whole host of off-world beings. The other night I listened to Whitley Strieber read the second chapter of his new book entitled Solving the Communion Enigma, that is coming out on January 5th, he says. He reveals some very personal information about his youth regarding some very bizarre experiments performed on him when he was a young child, how he completely lost his entire immune system at that time due to a total shattering of his trust in his reality through brutal experiments that were performed on him. These sorts of experiments are still being performed on children. They started in the 1940s by Nazi doctors who were slipped into this country by Project Paperclip after World War II, and they continue into the present by the military. Strieber's new book sounds like it should be a good read, and I plan to purchase it when it becomes available. I do not regard anyone as having the last word on any subject. To regard one person as having all the answers on a subject is to fall into that huge error of living in the extremes of the spectrum. However, everyone has at least a part of the puzzle, and gradually we become wise by taking in as much wisdom from various sources and sorting through it in our individual and unique way. We still have much to explore together. Coming up, we will have podcasts on sacred geometry and how that has been used in raising the consciousness of human beings, in creating enormous sacred structures, and in self-defense of the human race. We will also explore the mysteries and power of sound. This is called frequency technology, or sonics. Frequency technology involves tones and certain sounds, and in advanced cases, music, arranged and played according to sacred frequencies. Frequency technology and sound work can change the world, protect the world, and help you to travel to the very foundation of the world. Along these lines, I have formed a small group called the Vibramorphic Community. As we said earlier, you are now learning about energy, the flow of energy, and how to use that energy. We are ever alert to keep you aware of the latest developments in our community and field. Keep doing your practices. Your value is much more important than you think. Your work and your presence on this earth are important. You can become the person you were sent here to be and fulfill your life and cosmic purpose on earth. This ends our transmission for tonight. We will be in contact soon.